180 kilopascals, 40 psi. One employee witnessed a methylamine 1 reacts with phosgene 2 to produce methylisocyanate 3, which in turn reacts with 1-naphthol 4 to yield carbonyl 5. The MIG supervisor suffered severe chemical burns and 2 other workers were severely exposed to the gases. 16. During 1983 and 1984, there were leaks of MIG, chlorine, monomethylamine, phosgene, and carbon tetrachloride, sometimes in combination. 20. 17. Leakage and its effects. Liquid MIG storage. The Bhopal USL facility housed 3 underground 68,000-litre, 18,000 US gallon, liquid MIG storage tanks E610, E611, and E619. In the months leading up to the December leak, liquid MIG production was in progress and being used to fill these tanks. UCC safety regulations specified that no one tank should be filled more than 50%, about 30 tons, with liquid MIG. Each tank was pressurized with inert nitrogen gas. This pressurization allowed liquid MIG to be pumped out of each tank as needed and also kept impurities and moisture out of the tanks. 21. In late October 1984, tank E610 lost the ability to effectively contain most of its nitrogen gas pressure, which meant that the liquid MIG contained within could not be pumped out. At the time of this failure, tank E610 contained 42 tons of liquid MIG. 21. 22. Shortly after this failure, MIG production was halted at the Bhopal facility, and parts of the plant were shut down for maintenance. Maintenance included the shutdown of the plant's flare tower so that a corroded pipe could be repaired. 21. With the flare tower still rendered useless, production of carbonyl was resumed in late November using MIG stored in the 2 tanks still in service. An attempt to re-establish pressure in tank E610 on the 1st of December failed, so the 42 tons of liquid MI contained within still could not be pumped out of it. 22. Gas leak. Tank E610 in 2010. During the decontamination of the plant, the tank was removed from its foundations and set aside. By early December 1984, most of the plant's MIG-related safety systems were malfunctioning and many valves and lines were in poor condition. In addition, several vent gas scrubbers had been out of service, as well as the steam boiler intended to clean the pipes. 6. During the late evening hours of the 2nd of December 1984, water was believed to have entered tank E610 via a side pipe during attempts to unclog it. The tank still contained the 42 tons of MIG that have been there since late October. 6. The introduction of water into the tank resulted in a runaway exothermic reaction, which was accelerated by contaminants, high ambient temperatures, and various other factors such as the presence of iron from corroding and stainless steel pipelines. 6. The pressure in tank E610, although initially nominal at 14 kilopascals, 2 psi, at 10:30 p.m., reached 70 kilopascals, 10 psi, as of 11 p.m. 2 different senior refinery employees assumed the reading was instrumentation malfunction. 23. By 11:30 p.m., workers in the MI area were feeling the effects of minor exposure to MIG gas and began to look for a leak. One was found by 11:45 p.m. and reported to the MIG supervisor on duty at the time. The decision was made to address the problem after a 12:15 a.m. tea break, and in the meantime, employees were instructed to continue looking for leaks. The problem was discussed by MIG area employees during the break. 23. When the tea break concluded at 12:40 a.m., The reaction in tank E610 escalated to a critical state at an alarming speed within 5 minutes. Temperatures in the tank were off the scale, maxed out beyond 25 degrees C, 77 degrees Fahrenheit, and the pressure in the tank was indicated at 280 kilopascals, 40 psi. One employee witnessed a methylamine 1 reacts with phosgene 2 to produce methylisocyanate 3, which in turn reacts with 1-naphthol 4 to yield carbonyl 5. Concrete slab above tank E610 crack as the emergency relief valve burst open, and pressure in the tank continued to increase to 380 kilopascals, 55 psi, despite atmospheric venting of toxic emic gas having begun. 23. Direct atmospheric venting should have been prevented or at least partially mitigated by at least 3 safety devices which were malfunctioning, not in use, insufficiently sized, or otherwise rendered inoperable. Sad smiley 24, 25. A refrigeration system meant to cool tanks containing liquid MIC had been shut down in January 1982 and the freon had been removed in June 1984. Since the emic storage system assumed refrigeration, its high-temperature alarm, set to sound at 11 degrees C, 52 degrees Fahrenheit, had long since been disconnected, and tank storage temperatures ranged between 15 degrees C, 59 degrees Fahrenheit, and 40 degrees Celsius, 104 degrees Fahrenheit, 26. A flare tower to burn the MIG gas as it escaped, which had had a connecting pipe removed for maintenance, was improperly sized to neutralize a leak of the size produced by tank E610. A vent gas scrubber which had been deactivated at the time and was in standby mode, and similarly had insufficient caustic soda and power to safely stop a leak of the magnitude it produced. About 30 tons of MIC escaped from the tank into the atmosphere in 45 to 60 minutes. 4. This would increase to 40 tons within 2 hours. 27. The gases were blown in a southeast direction over Bhopal. 6. 28. A USL employee triggered the plant's alarm system at 12:50 am as the concentration of gas in and around the plant became difficult to tolerate. 23. 27. Activation of the system triggered 2 siren alarms, one that specifically sounded inside the USL plant itself and a second directed to the exterior which would alert the general public and the city of Bhopal. The 2 siren systems had been decoupled from one another in 1982 so that it was possible to leave the factory warning siren on while the public one remained inactive. This is what had occurred. The public siren briefly sounded at 12:50 am and was quickly turned off, as per company procedure meant to avoid alarming the public around the factory over inconsequential leaks. 27, 29, 24. Workers, meanwhile, evacuated the USL plant, traveling upwind. Bhopal's superintendent of police was informed via telephone by a town inspector that residents of the neighborhood of Kola, about 2 kilometers from the plant, were fleeing a gas leak at approximately 1 a.m. 29. Calls to the USL plant by police between 1:25 and 2:10 am elicited assurances twice that everything is okay, and on the last attempt made, "We don't know what has happened, sir." 29. With the lack of timely information exchange between USL and Bhopal authorities, the city's Hamidiya hospital was first told that gas leak was suspected to be ammonia, then later phosgene. Finally, they received an updated report that it was MIC, rather than methylisocyanate, which hospital staff had never heard of, had no antidote for, and knew no immediate information about. 30. The MIC gas leak emanating from tank E610 petered out at approximately 2 am. 15 minutes later the plant's public siren was sounded for an extended period of time after having been quickly silenced an hour and a half earlier. 31. some minutes after the public siren sounded, a USL employee walked to a police control room to both inform them of the leak, their first acknowledgement that one had ever occurred in the first place, and that the leak had been plugged. 31. Most city residents who were exposed to the MIG gas were first made aware of the leak by exposure to the gas itself, or by opening their doors to investigate commotion, rather than having been instructed to shelter in place or to evacuate before the arrival of the gas in the first place. 24. Acute effects. The reversible reaction of glutathione, top, with MIG, middle, allows MIG to be transported into the body. The initial effects of exposure were coughing, severe irritation, a feeling of suffocation, burning in the respiratory tract, blepharospasm, breathlessness, stomach pains, and vomiting. People alerted by these symptoms fled from the plant. Those who ran inhaled more than those in vehicles. Owing to their height, children and other residents of shorter stature inhaled higher concentrations, as methyl isocyanate gas is approximately twice as dense as air and in an open environment has a tendency to fall toward the ground. 32. Thousands of people had died by the following morning. Primary causes of deaths were choking, reflexogenic circulatory collapse, and pulmonary edema. Findings during autopsies revealed changes not only in the lungs but also cerebral edema, tubular necrosis of the kidneys, fatty degeneration of the liver, and necrotizing enteritis. 33. 6. The individuals who did not die suffered from cancer, blindness, loss of livelihood, and financial strain. 34. Gas cloud composition. Apart from MIG, based on laboratory simulation conditions, the gas cloud most likely also contained chloroform, dichloromethane, hydrogen chloride, methylamine, dimethylamine, trimethylamine, and carbon dioxide that was either present in the tank or was produced in the storage tank when MIG, chloroform, and water reacted. The gas cloud, composed mainly of materials denser than air, stayed close to the ground and spread in a southeast direction, affecting the nearby communities. 32. The chemical reactions may have produced a liquid or solid aerosol. 35. Laboratory investigations by XR and UCC scientists failed to demonstrate the presence of hydrogen cyanide. 32. 36. Immediate aftermath. In the immediate aftermath, the plant was closed to outsiders, including UCC, by the Indian government, which subsequently failed to make data public, contributing to the confusion. The initial investigation was conducted entirely by the Council of Scientific and Industrial Research, CSIR, and the Central Bureau of Investigation. The UCC chairman and CEO Warren Anderson, together with a technical team, immediately traveled to India. Upon arrival, Anderson was placed under house arrest and urged by the Indian government to leave the country within 24 hours. Union Carbide organized a team of international medical experts, as well as supplies and equipment, to work with the local Bhopal medical community, and the UCC technical team began assessing the cause of the gas leak. The healthcare system immediately became overloaded. In the severely affected areas, nearly 70% were underqualified doctors. Medical staff were unprepared for the thousands of casualties. Doctors and hospitals were not aware of proper treatment methods for MIG gas inhalation. 6. Memorial to those killed and disabled in Bhopal by Dutch Holocaust survivor Ruth Waterman Kupfer-Schmidt. 37. There were mass funerals and cremations. Photographer Pablo Bartholomew, on commission with press agency RAFO, took an iconic color photograph of a burial on the 4th of December. Bhopal gas disaster girl. Another photographer present, Raghu II, took a black and white photo. The photographers did not ask for the identity of the father or child as she was buried, and no relative has since confirmed it. As such, The identity of girl remains unknown. Both photos became symbolic of the suffering of victims of the Bhopal disaster, and Bartholomew went on to win the 1984 World Press Photo of the Year. 38. Within a few days, trees in the vicinity became barren, and bloated animal carcasses had to be disposed of. 170,000 people were treated at hospitals and temporary dispensaries, and 2,000 buffalo, goats, and other animals were collected and buried. Supply